Now we're back here with another guest, the former Waterloo champion Jack Everett, who's here with Enoch Pear's grandson, Paul Barnard. I know, Jack, you've been itching to see these bowls that won the first All England Championship, haven't you, Jack?
I have that.
And you finally got your hands on them.
Yeah.
What do you think of that then?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Do we know what make the bowls were?
Yes. Thomas Royal from Manchester.
Yeah. Is that a company that still exists?
No, it doesn't exist anymore, funny enough.
No.
They sold out about 12 years ago.
Now, Paul, as I say, he's brought to these trophies along with the bowls. I mean, they're fascinating, aren't they, Jack? The clock and all the rest of it. Obviously, Paul and his family are proud of what Enoch achieved. But Paul never knew his granddad. He passed away 2 or 3 years before Paul was born. But you heard such a lot about him, haven't you? Because in your younger days. Well,
yes.
What can you tell us about Enoch Pears?
Well, I'll tell you, he started playing bowls and he was playing really regular at the Dog and Partridge, which is, they had their bowling team called Wensfield, and the Dog and Partridge is Bob McGregory's Bridge, and you say, why is it Gregory's Bridge? Well, the fella called Gregory bought this pub, the Dog and Partridge, about 1870. And he got the green going, and they got the team going, and of course the hotbed of bowls in Staffordshire was Wensfield. And this fella, Enoch Pearce, was the king of them. And they had some real players. And George Owls, who was an exceptionally good player, he started playing at my grandfather's pub called the Pile Cock. And he told me a lot about this fella. And he always used to say to me, you know him, you've seen him, you've seen the fella. And I honestly can't remember seeing him, but I've heard such a lot about him. And George Owls, for him to turn round and say this was the king of the castle, this was something.
Because George Owls, I think he's got the record, hasn't he, winning the Staffordshire Merit on 5 occasions,
times.
hasn't he? And he's obviously one of the most famous bowlers Staffordshire's ever produced.
Absolutely. And I used to follow George Owls about when I was about 8, 9, get on my bike and mark his card. And he was a tremendous corner player. And I'm talking now like in the early 40s, you see. And George and Jimmy, he had a son called Jim who was a good player, you know. And Jim always used to say, you know, you've seen this fella, you know. And he used to say, you see him playing corner to corner, he used to run every ball at the green, you know. And now he's just telling me how good he was. And he was. And in Wensfield, in those days, they'd got the Aidy brothers, the Griffiths brothers, they got Withers, and they had a pile of absolutely top-class players. All Wensfield bowlers was the top of the cream.
And it was like sort of the hotbed of bowls in Staffordshire, wasn't it, in the Wensfield area?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was, you said there was the Dog and Partridge where Wensfield played. There was my grandfather's pub, which was the Pile Cock. There was the Presswood Arms. There was the Falcon, you know, and they all had absolutely fantastic teams. But there was other teams as well besides them. They weren't just the only teams. And Enoch Pearce, he did most of his bowling at the Dog and Partridge at Wensfield, but he had used to flicker around, you know, doing a bit of playing here and there. Yeah. I'll tell you.
I said in the introduction that the British Grand Green first inter-county championship was played in 1908, and there were 3 teams then, which was Staffordshire, Yorkshire and a joint Lancashire and Cheshire side. And in those days, as you rightly said, Jack, Staffordshire was one of the real top counties, weren't they, in the early days, and thanks to a lot of these people from these clubs round in the Wensfield area.
Yes.
You know.
When George Owls passed away, Jimmy gave me his first Vincent Cup Winners' Medal, and he gave me a big folder of programmes. And I've got programmes with Enoch Pearce on, and all the rest of the bowlers that was playing round from 1916 up to about 1930, well, right till George passed away, really. Yeah. And in those days, you know, they used to play the matches 24 players on one green. Then used to play like we play, 12 here and 12 at the other place, they used to play 24 players on one green, and then, not the following Saturday, but the Saturday after, those 24 players, or whoever they picked, played in the other county. So the county match was 48 players, really.
Yeah, yeah. It's just good idea as well, that really, wasn't it, Jack?
I think it was.
Good, yeah. Just going back to Paul, I remember you was telling me that Enoch, in those days, there wasn't much money to be had, and he used to win quite a lot of vouchers in the tournaments he win. And what did he used to do with all those vouchers?
That's right. He used to give the vouchers to obviously my mum and his wife, and they used to go up to town and spend them in like the large shops. Beatties particularly were favourites for letting them have shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah. So Enoch worked hard to win these bowls tournaments and ended up with his
That's
wife
right,
and
yeah.
your mum getting
Yeah.
new pairs of shoes out of it.
He was very kind apparently, because he used to sort of treat the kids in the street to all sorts of things, and yeah, he used to be quite generous, I'm told.
Yeah. And I've looked at photographs of him. He was very meticulously dressed and very smart gentleman, wasn't he?
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. Always with his jacket on, and he used to have I'm told, a rose. He was a keen gardener, and used to have his own allotment, and he used to have a rose in his lapel.
Yeah. And as Jack would probably say in those days, early days, a lot of people you played, it was braces and ties and collars, wasn't it?
That's absolutely right. And I'll tell you that, see, when I was about 8 or 9, I used to go to my grandfather's pub at the Parker, and the guys in there, the Griffiths brothers and what have you, used to tell me stories about what used to happen in the bowling world and who was the best bowlers, and this is going back from 1900 on. And Enoch Peters was always the top of the tree. He was always the top one. And he used to go about a little bit, from what the two Griffiths told me, and he'd go to the Parcock, and you know, they'd play 21 up for a shilling. He said, and you was giving Enoch Peters a shilling, you know, because you couldn't lick him. And he used to get about a bit, you know. And it says in the paper, and I've read in the newspaper where he used to get the vouchers for in the tournaments, which that was absolutely right, because the reason I say this, the first tournaments I ever won, I had vouchers, you know, but he was a real thoroughbred player, and he used to go and he would soon play for a shilling if anybody wanted to play. And in those days, that's what the people used to do, and that's how they become really top-class players, by playing night in and night out. And I think you'll find that Enoch Peters used to do that.
Well, thanks for that, Jack. I'm sure, Paul, you must be very proud that Jack's come along and told you a little bit about
really,
how well thought of
really
your granddad was.
Yeah.
Now, you got those bowls in your hand, Jack, and I know eventually you want to send them across the screen, don't you? So we'll have a little bit of go with that later in the programme. But for now, we'll just take a short break, and we'll be back with another guest after this interval.